overview or a review of the international monetary system and the balance of payments accounting system. Okay. Right. So I'll just minimize this. So we are on chapter 7, international monetary system and the balance of payments. Okay. So you notice here, it's related to the obviously the central banks of nations of countries around the world, as well as the World Bank. Okay, that we will see inside this topic, the development of how World Bank came into being or become picture. Okay, came into the picture. So at the end of this chapter, you should be able to discuss the role of international monetary system in promoting international trade investment. It's very important. It's a very important component of being able to do trade and investment effectively, efficiently, and benefits all countries or all individuals or all firms. And secondly, discuss the impact of World Bank Group that was created, okay, of the what do you call First World War, okay, and also International Monetary Fund on post World War II. Okay, sorry, World War II International Monetary System established at Bretton Woods. Okay, that's key in the development of the international monetary system. So this too relates to international monetary system, but it is supported by, you should be able to describe the function and structure of the balance of payments accounting system, being practiced by countries all over the world, okay, and monitored by World Bank and people who analyze this, okay. The book starts with explaining the problem of unstable currencies, manipulation of currencies by individual countries trying to protect their own individual countries' employment and so on. So basically, how to ensure countries do not manipulate their currency values, by fixing them or by reducing the value, manipulating, or even building high tariff walls, especially during the Great Depression, which disrupts trade among countries. Okay, so how do you ensure that? And secondly, the big issue of avoiding this beggar thy neighbor. Okay, we'll see this policy afterwards, whereby countries try to, make themselves better, trying to protect them, protectionism through currency manipulation. And also ensuring international money system functions to promote world commerce, because this is important to world leaders and also central bankers and business people, and also the people of the world. Okay, so it is it's very important that we have accepted international money system working. Everybody believe in it. All countries believe in it. Okay, right. Before we go further, let's put some definitions first. So when we say international monetary system, it is a system which actually tries to establish rules by which countries determine the value of their currency and the exchange of their currencies with regards to any trade or any kind of business transactions. So what are the rules that every country should play or follow? Okay, and also, at the same time, if we have this exchange rates monitoring and control, so it will provide mechanism. So international money system provide a mechanism for correcting imbalances between countries' international payments and these receipts. Okay, how do we make sure that the countries actually have surplus or deficits and so on. And also affects the cost of converting foreign money into a firm. Basically, if the currency is not stable, or if the currency is put at too high or too low, it will actually result into gains to some country, loss to some country. Okay, so it affects the cost of converting foreign money into a firm's home currency. So you need smooth functioning of the system. So that's basically the importance of international monetary system. Okay. Stop me anytime. Okay, please. If you have any questions, just stop me. So that's the first part, the international monetary system that we are going to look into. Secondly, there is a system which is the balance of payment system, balance of payments accounting system, which records international transactions and supplies, which it's not 100% accurate, but at least it gives some information about the condition of the national economy of any country in the world. Okay, about the health of the national economy, because there are statistics, BOP statistics that is gathered and analyzed. It can be used to detect whether the country is showing signs of trouble, that can actually lead to trade restrictions. There's trade surplus, too much surplus. China is blamed for having a trade surplus with US. So US tries to actually block some of the imports. Okay, right. So the statistics can also look whether there's higher interest rates, inflation, there's a reduced aggregate demand, and so on. Okay, so this is important for countries to actually be aware of their state of economy. So we'll start with the IMS first, okay, International Monetary System. Then at the end, towards the end, we'll talk about BOP. Okay. So before we actually go into further details, okay, the book starts with looking at the history of the international monetary system. The history of international money system. Before a long time ago, okay, long time ago, when countries do business, the standard was actually using gold. Okay, so when they buy, they actually have to fix the currency based on gold standard. Okay, so under the gold standard, countries agree to buy or sell their paper currencies in exchange for gold. And United Kingdom, why United Kingdom? Well, United Kingdom was the the world's superpower at that time. Okay, so the UK adopted the gold standard, and this was followed by Russia, Austria, Hungary, France, Germany, US. So they actually did that. Okay, so this gold standard effectively created the first kind of system in monetary, which is actually a fixed exchange rate mechanism. Fixed exchange rate. So from 1821 to World War I. Sorry, this is typewritten. Okay, sorry. Right, 1918. Let me change this. 1918. Okay, so sterling-based gold standard was used. So most firms accepted either gold or British pounds in settlement of transactions. That's what the Russian is doing it now. So the price of gold currency does not change relative to each other currency. This is fixed exchange rate mechanism. So each country peg the value of, example, okay, peg the value of currency to gold. For example, United Kingdom pledged to buy or sell an ounce of gold for 4.27247 pounds sterling. establishing the pound par value. Okay, this the word par, the term par value or official price in terms of gold. Okay, and so other, if other, I mean, there is the gold, which is actually the value. Okay, an ounce of gold, US use 20.67. So when they want to exchange, so the two currencies could be freely exchanged based on this the value of gold. So two currencies could be freely exchanged for the stated amount of gold. For example, making 4.247 equals to 20.67. So this implied a fixed exchange rate between the pound and the dollar, which is 4.867, okay, which is this. Okay, so you can do that for all other countries. And so British pound was accepted, and but it's pegged with the gold fixed exchange rate. Why? Because that's why the British colonized. They was the superpower. Even Malaysia was colonized by the British, India, Egypt, and so on. Okay, and right until today, you can see London being, international financial center. British firms such as Barclays, Thomas Cook, Lloyd's started. Started from that point in time. Okay, so this is the first first stage of the international monetary system development. Now the next stage is during the World War, the sterling-based gold standard unraveled or destroyed. Okay, so World War I, normal commercial transaction between the Allies and the Central Powers stopped. Okay, and country after country suspend their pledges to buy or sell gold at their currencies' par values. Now, so what happened was, after the war, conferences at Brussels and Genoa, provided some general agreements on how they are going to move forward. Okay. So some countries among the major economies to return to pre-war gold standard. Okay, but it was not successful. It was short-lived. Some countries didn't want to follow because of the economic stresses triggered by the Great Depression during the 30s. Especially, Bank of England were not able to honor the pledge to maintain the pound's value. Okay, because people were dumping the pounds and trying to get back their what do you call cash. Okay, so basically so after the UK abandoned the gold standard, they were not able to abandon the gold standard or the sterling area. So the other countries were actually other countries tied their value to other countries, to their currency, to the US dollar or to the French franc. Okay, so there was no more harmony between countries to actually find a common way of converting their currencies. Okay, right. So most countries at this time were actually raising tariff at the same time, and so they impose high taxes on imported goods to protect their domestic jobs. Okay, against what do you call imports. So this is what we call as beggar thy neighbor. Okay, let me see this. Okay, so this is what what's happening. Competitive devaluations. Everybody were trying to devalue their currency and impose high tariff to protect domestic jobs. As more countries adopted these beggar thy neighbor policies, which is devaluation of the currency and also putting high tariff. So international trade contracted, and it hurt a lot of countries' export industry. And some analysts actually blame this situation towards the World War II situation. Okay, so this led to a lot of the economic tensions resulted into the World War II. In 1939. Okay. Right. So that is, you see the stages, a gold standard, and then no more gold standard. Okay. Every country tried to actually float. Okay. So I forgot to mention float. Okay, just now. Float is actually the pound value will be determined by the forces of supply and demand, market forces. Okay. So you float the currency. So it will actually you're not going to actually buy back the currency and try to save normally central bank will they try to buy back the currency and try to save the put it at the value that is intended. Okay, so collapse of the gold standard. So then came the Bretton Woods era. Okay, so after World War II, now countries were trying to actually determine the thing that you should be doing in order to what kind of international monetary system you need to create. Okay, so the history is this: 1944, a representative of 44 countries met in Bretton Woods with the objective of creating a post-war economic environment that will provide worldwide peace and prosperity. Okay, so basically, because they every country in the world or knows that if you try to protect too much of your own country and industry, trade will not occur or be contracted. So everybody will lose. Everybody will lose. It's not that it will create gains. So what the conference attendees agreed was to renew the gold standard on a greatly modified basis. Okay, so we'll see this after this, the International Monetary Fund and also the World Bank. So the creation of two new international organizations, which is actually the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is actually World Bank. Okay, it's actually the official name of World Bank, right? And the creation of IMF. So World War II created the International Monetary Fund, right? But the role of IBRD, okay, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. The word reconstruction also you can understand, right? Reconstruction means to rebuild. Okay, so the role of the first job of World Bank was actually to help finance reconstruction of the war-torn European economies. Okay, so that is their what do you call first initial goal, and that was achieved in the 1950s, the mid 1950s. They actually have achieved that. That means war-torn European economies were actually reconstructed and rebuilt and up and running. So they changed their mission. New mission is help build economies of the world's developing countries. So that's what they have been doing. And the World Bank currently has 177 billion in loans outstanding, but it is owned by the 189 member countries. I read somewhere it's already 190 member countries. Right. So basically, we'll see this after this. So they provide loans. So the World Bank, to finance its lending operation, the World Bank borrows money in its own name from international capital markets, and the interest earned on existing loan has what do you call, given it more lending power. So the World Bank created 22 billion in new loan commitments in 2017. Okay. And they actually expanded into these 4 affiliated organizations: International Development Association, International Finance Corporation, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, International Center for Settlement of Investment and Disputes. Okay, you can go to the website. Okay, you can go to the website and see them. But this year is expected to actually, the global growth is expected to slump from 5.7 to 2.9% in 2022. So we are looking at we're not looking at a good, good scenario actually now. The world's economy is not really doing very well. Do you agree, Alban?
Sure.
You're not sure?
Yeah.
Is France doing very well now?
No, no, obviously not.
Obviously not. Even I mean, in my own country, I have to actually confess. I mean, Malaysia is not doing very well. In fact, the last few weeks, the foreign investors have been pulling out of our stock market, and it's like almost 100 million US dollars being pulled out, which is so. Anyway, it is we are living in times of difficulty, after COVID, and now we are facing a lot of unemployment and so on. Anyway, which is stated here. Actually, I just copied this from the website this morning, not this morning, yesterday. And when I read this, I say it's it looks bad. Okay, it's worrying actually. Okay. Anyway, coming back to this, the World Bank's 4 major agencies or organization. So, International Development Association offers soft loans, 19 billion in new loans in 2017, especially to developing countries. Okay. For development purposes, okay, for development purposes, not for some other reasons. Okay. International Finance Corporation, for example, the book gave example of IFC providing Bangladesh cement company with 10 million in equity and 35 million in loans to help build a 60 million plant capable of producing 1.2 million tons of cement annually. So they provide this, finance, right? Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency provides political risk insurance. Okay, this is for example, issued 18 million political risk insurance to Society Nationale de Telecommunications, Senegal. This is a French company, I think, Senegal, to protect its investment in Ecatel SA, a Mali telephone company, and 115 million in support of Bujagali hydropower plant in Uganda. So they provide risk, what they call insurance, risk insurance. And the International Center for Settlement of International Disputes, okay, so this provide arbitration services in investor host country investment. So basically, these are all World Bank entities, World Bank Group. They call it the World Bank Group, okay. And of course, parallel to this, there are regional development banks like the Asian Development Bank, the African Development Bank. So all these are actually providing loans, okay, sums of loans to developing countries or countries needing to finance their development projects. Okay. Right. So that is the scenario. That means if you try to recall. So now we are in post World War, immediately after World War, and the creation of World Bank, trying to promote to give confidence to members by making sure that the way forward is going to be better. Okay, secondly, so after Bretton Woods, they created International Monetary Fund, IMF. Okay, but some people argue, there's a lot of argument. Okay, there's a lot of people who actually do not agree to some of the policies that is being done by this organization. So IMF is, this is their objective, right? IMF works to achieve sustainable growth and prosperity for all its 190 members. It does so by supporting economic policies, promoting financial stability and monetary cooperation to increase productivity, job creation, and economic well-being of countries. Okay, so you can see a capacity development and so on. So this is the officially stated objectives, basically objectives of IMF. So you can read here: to promote international monetary cooperation, to facilitate expansion and balance growth of international trade, to promote exchange stability, to assist establishment of multilateral system of payments. When you do trade, okay, you need to have this multilateral system of payment, to give confidence to members by making general resources of IMF temporarily available. Well, IMF provides loans to countries in distress. There is an example of this. There are countries, for example, during the Asian crisis, Malaysia was also affected, but we didn't take the IMF. Mahathir San, our Prime Minister, fixed the rate, fixed the exchange rate at that time. So he did this, what others didn't do. Anyway, right. To shorten the duration and lessen the degree of disequilibrium in the international balance of payments of members. Right. I'm not going to dwell into detail, just briefly only. So as of 2019, 120 countries were members. To join IMF. So you have the so-called quotas. Country must pay a quota. Okay, a country's quota reflects the partly in gold and partly in country's own currency. Okay, so this is quota is actually it probably is a kind of deposit. Okay, reflects the importance of a country's economy, and it will determine the voting power within the IMF. And what countries' quota is actually their official reserves. We'll discuss it in the balance of payment section afterwards. And countries' borrowing power. So the quota will also determine the borrowing power from IMF. Every member has unconditional right to borrow up to 25% of its quota from IMF. Okay, and IMF allows additional borrowings depending on the countries agreeing to IMF imposed restrictions, which is called IMF conditionality. So IMF conditionality is the condition imposed by IMF when they want to get additional borrowings. Okay, I'll just read here. For example, in return for an IMF loan of 21 billion during the Asian currency crisis, South Korea agreed to undertake major economic reforms, including permitting foreign banks to take over Korean counterparts. So this is, well, to survive, okay? Imagine if you allow foreign companies to actually take over your you're permitting foreign banks to take over Korean counterparts, okay? Closing insolvent merchant banks, reducing government favoritism towards chaebols, the keiretsu system, right? And lowering tariffs on many goods. So this is the IMF conditionality, trying to make sure that, well, you can argue to make someone else more powerful, okay? Or, but anyway, this is, the system that was created, okay? And in fact, the IMF also lent Indonesia $10 billion. And so the condition was the country pledged to scrap state monopolies controlling certain foodstuff. So you have to give away some of your so-called rights. Reform is banking industry. Sometimes it's quite difficult because, you are a rich country. For example, France is a rich country. You come to Malaysia, you can buy one bank. Or Japan comes to Malaysia, you can buy 5 banks. You go to Senegal, you can buy the whole country. Okay, so this is what is you see in Sri Lanka today. Sri Lanka is facing high debts, allowing Chinese loans to actually build their countries, ports, airports. So you are actually not protecting. We can argue from that perspective. Okay. So in fact, Indonesia, is resulted into writing and the fall of Suharto, actually. If you read the history, okay, because of this crisis, currency crisis, economic crisis, you will see this after this. These are, international debt crisis happening, all over the world, right until today, okay? Today's case study is Sri Lanka, right? So this is actually the quotas, okay? So the quotas, quota. For example, currently US holds 16.5%. So they have a lot of say. Japan 6.2%, China, okay, 6%, and so on. So this is the quotas that actually held by all the important countries in the world. Okay, so the Bretton Woods conference also led to this the dollar-based gold standard. Remember just now it was the pound sterling gold standard. They move on to they agreed to peg value of currencies to gold. And for example, the par value of USD is $35 per ounce. Only US pledged to redeem currency for gold. So it basically established the US dollar base gold standard. Okay. So some countries actually, and they actually agreed to fix exchange rate. All countries pledged to maintain plus minus 1% of the par value. Okay, plus minus par according to their currency. And also, if they are allowed, okay, under extraordinary circumstances to actually adjust, okay, it is also an adjustable peg system that was created. Adjustable peg, because currencies were pegged to gold, but the pegs themselves could be altered under certain conditions. Okay, for example, the pounds, British pound par value was first set at 2.80. The bank was obligated to keep the pound value between 2.772 and $2.82, plus minus 1% of 2.8. in the event that pessimism about the British economy caused the pound market to fall below that, okay, 2.76, for example, the Bank of England would be required to defend the value of pound by selling some of its gold. So this is, trying some selling the pound, selling some of the gold to US or US dollar holdings to buy the pound back. Then hopefully this will, will increase back to the plus minus 1% par value. So that is the dollar-based gold standard. But because of this speculative runs on the banks, countries were using money to actually, it was the same old problem, right? You sell money and you don't want to keep the money or the currency. So now, November 1967, the Bank of England could not counter the flood of pound dumped by speculators because they were supposed to buy back, but they cannot. So they were forced to devalue the pounds by 14.3%. Same thing, France, similar thing, and had to devalue the franc. And finally, runs on these British and French banks, precursor to runs on the bank. Finally, it came to US Federal Reserve Bank in the early 70s. So it's basically the the fixed US dollar gold standard started to actually fall. Okay. There is this term called Triffin paradox. Triffin paradox is whereby US dollar, it's actually US dollar. Foreigners needed to increase their holding of dollars to finance international trade, but the more dollars they own, the less faith they had that the US could redeem dollars for gold. So they cannot be just selling their dollars, okay? So the less faith they had, the more they wanted to get rid of dollars and get gold in return. So if they did this, the whole international monetary system might collapse, because until today, actually, US do not have enough gold to redeem the dollars held by foreigners until today. Okay, so this is the Triffin paradox. All right. Okay, another. So to actually reduce some of these effects, so the IMF started to produce these special drawing rights. So as a means of injecting more liquidity into MS and reducing demands on dollar as a reserve currency, so actually the IMF members agreed to create the special drawing rights. So these special drawing rights is actually to settle official transactions at the IMF. And these SDRs are sometimes called paper gold. Okay, paper gold. So IMF members currently hold approximately 204 billion SDRs. And about 90% of them were created in 2009 by the IMF to address the global recession. Okay, but somehow or other, creating these special drawing rights did not reduce the glut of dollars held by foreigners. So the problem was there's too much dollars circulating in the international money market. Okay, and this resulted into in 1971, then President Nixon said that he will not longer redeem gold at $35 per ounce. Okay, so basically US dollars were actually being allowed to devalued. Okay. In 1971, the central banks from group of 10, so the group of 10 is this, okay, group of 10, US, Japan, Germany, France, and so on, okay, which holds a large portion of the world GDP. So 48.7% cumulative world GDP. So they agreed to restore the fixed exchange rate system, but with restructured rates of exchange between the major trading currencies. Okay. So they were, they were allowed to actually US dollars was devalued to 38 pounds, but remained inconvertible into gold. So basically, no more gold standard. So money was just printed and become paper money. Okay. So that was the end of, using gold as, the value of currency. Okay. So the US dollar was devalued to $38 per ounce, remained inconvertible into gold. Par values of strong currencies such as yen were revalued upwards, and currencies were allowed to fluctuate around their new par values of plus minus 2.25%, which replaced the narrower plus minus 1% range authorized by the Bretton Woods Agreement. Okay, right. So the performance of IMF after 1971, okay, because they have already devalued US dollar, and then they increased the fluctuation to be around plus minus 2.25%. So we have basically a floating or flexible exchange rate system, okay, where supply and demand for a currency will determine its price in the world market. Okay, so that allows actually the currency to either move up or move down. Okay. Secondly, so the current arrangements is actually called a managed float, or basically a dirty float, because exchange rates are not determined purely by private sector market forces, but can be manipulated or intervened by banks. Okay, so that's what's happening. And in 1976, in the Jamaica Agreement, countries tried to actually legitimize flexible exchange rate system or flexible exchange rate system mechanism. So basically, the money system, as there's only two. One is either you fix or flexible. Okay, so countries were free to adopt whatever exchange rate system which is best, that meets its own requirements, and the US adopted a floating exchange rate. So this is the flexible exchange rate. Some countries adopted a fixed exchange rate by pegging their exchange rate. So basically, some countries adopted this fixed. Other countries adopted a fixed exchange rate by pegging their currencies to the dollar or to the French or some other currency. Okay, so they have two systems. And they may not need 2, 3. Crawling pegs, countries which allow the peg to change gradually over time. Others use crawling pegs. That means they actually change, they peg according to time. Okay. So one of the particular note is the strategy adopted by EU members, okay, in the belief that flexible exchange rates would actually hinder their ability to create an integrated European economy. So they created the European monetary system in 1979 to manage currency relationship among them. Of course, at the end of the day, you have the euro, right? Okay, standard currency for whole of Europe. Basically, of course, there are advantages and disadvantages for countries. So they pledge to maintain fixed exchange rate among their currencies, with the narrow range of plus minus 2.25%. I think you're in France, probably know better off than me. Okay, and the floating rate against the US dollar and other countries. Some countries, for example, Greece, the failure of Greece. What happened? Can you relate that to me? Can you explain that? I mean, you're European like Alban and Norian. You probably can explain to me better the Greece what do you call economy failure of Greece economy. Anything, Norian? Why did it fail?
Actually, I'm not really comfortable with that.
Okay, Alban, any ideas about
Yeah.
Greece? Economy.
In 2008.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but they bankrupted basically, like the country bankrupted.
And who has to bail them out?
Then Europe, they all
you actually France,
together.
German bail out Greece to actually support their currency and also their economy basically. So those countries which are having a low value, okay, raw currency will probably gain a lot by having good export income actually. Okay, but when a country go bankrupt, some countries will actually have to bail them out, right, in this system, right? So some other second World War, post World War II conferences in creating or stabilizing the international monetary system. For example, the Plaza Accord, whereby the group of five enacted the Plaza Accord. The central banks of this group of five, okay, maybe you can look at group of five, is actually Canada, European Union is considered as US, Japan, Germany, France, UK. Okay, go back to this, back to the table just now. Never mind. Okay, so the group of five, which is actually United States, Japan, Germany, France, UK, central banks agreed to let the dollar's value fall on currency markets. Okay, that means they're not going to actually help support the value of US dollars. And it actually fall. Okay, and fall it did. From its peak in February 1985, the dollar plummeted about 46% against the German mark, 41% against the yen, by the beginning of 1987. Okay, by 2 years, you see the value reduce. Okay, so fearing that this continued devaluation of dollar would disrupt world trade, finance ministers from the five countries met again, the Louvre Accord. Okay, so the Louvre Accord continued devaluation. They created they group and they met here, and so first they let it go down. Now they say, okay, let's stabilize the dollar value. It's a bit funny, right? You but of course, these are dynamic. Okay, these are so the five countries commit to actually stabilize the dollar value. And I mean the foreign exchange market, were also thrown in turmoil in 1990s. Persian Gulf War, and all these are actually disrupting any war. For example, today the Russian-Ukraine war, is disrupting a lot of the economy. Okay, right. So the fluctuation of this, okay, there is, you can see this in the book as well. Okay, so the fluctuation of currencies. This is from 1960 to 2017. Okay, continue to fluctuate until the end of 20th century and into the new century. And you can see these the changes in dollars value against the Japanese, against the German. Deutschmark, of course, now they've been discontinued. Okay. So this fluctuation actually, that's why you need a stable or a managed properly competitive what do you call currency in order for countries to actually do business. Okay, create importance to international business. When the value of their domestic currency increases in the foreign exchange market, companies will find it harder to export their markets. Okay, it's going to be more expensive, more difficult to protect their domestic markets from the threat. For example, yen today. Yen against the dollar, yen has reduced value quite sharp. Okay, so what's happening to their exports and imports? Is it cheaper to import? Or what are the gains? Do you gain by importing or you gain by exporting when the currency, the value become lower against the other trading country? For example, US and Japan. Okay, yen go down. What happened? Norian, what happened when you think of import and export? Your value of the yen is cheaper now, right? So it used to be like what is?
If yen is lower, it's better to import.
Water is better to import. Yeah. Okay. Better to import. Alban, you agree?
As the USA, yes, it's better to import.
Okay, right. So it's harder to export, right? It's easier to import, correct? Okay. So that is the the effect of currency values, exchange rates, and how best to actually stabilize the exchange rates, right? Okay, we move on to this international debt crisis. Okay, there's a lot of when you get loans from countries, or maybe countries will not be able to actually pay off the loans, and if your resources is of good value, okay, then probably it's going to be beneficial, right? So this situation of soaring oil prices. Okay, in 1973, OPEC imposed oil embargo. Okay, and immediately the price of oil quadrupled 4 times. Okay, $3 a barrel to $12 a barrel within less than a year. Okay, within less than a year, the oil crisis. And the same thing in 1979. But of course, countries which actually increase the oil will, oil exporting countries going to be richer than oil importing countries. So what they do with their money? Okay, they probably give out for loans and get interest from that. Same thing happened. 79, price of oil skyrocketed from 13 to over $30 a barrel. But of course, today in the year 2000, okay, I forgot, $100 a barrel. Well, it triggered another round of worldwide inflation and so on. Interest rates on loans rose, most carried floating interest rate, and further burdening heavily indebted countries. So basically, when price of resources actually or minerals or raw materials increase, so you will actually have effect on the economy, all countries, right? So international debt crisis, so it resulted into debts. Okay, when you have this crisis, So countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America sought relief from the external debts. So they James Baker is actually the U.S. Treasury Secretary. 1985, the Baker Plan, he stressed the importance of debt rescheduling. So you can reschedule your debt. Countries can reschedule debts. Then there's tighter IMF control on the payment, and also how they actually use their loans. Okay, so impose control of domestic monetary and fiscal policies, and continued lending to debtor countries in hopes that the country will grow economically and will allow them to repay their creditors. Okay, so that was the Baker Plan. The Baker Plan was actually trying to help countries to be able to pay off their debts. 1989, Brady, so she's the Treasury Secretary, and Nicholas Brady focused on the need to reduce debts of the troubled countries by writing off parts of the debts or providing countries with funds to buy back their loans at a below face value. Okay, try to reschedule their loans. So whenever there is crisis, there will always be this try to reduce debt. And in 1997, 98, not only Thailand, okay, the book only mentioned Thailand, but it's also Malaysia, Indonesia, all these. South Korea also were in this Asian currency crisis. Everybody were actually dumping the country's money. Okay, investors are basically. So Thailand packed its currency to a dollar-denominated basket of currency, forced to unpack, and then because investors were not trusting the currency, and also they believe that the Thai borrowers would not be able to repay their foreign loans. So this resulted into the currency devalued. Okay, the Thai government tried to maintain the baht value by buying back the baht, but how you cannot support that. Okay, so and it resulted into the stock markets crash, all the Asian markets crash. This is a good case study actually. If you like to do a research on financial crisis, but Malaysia did the the conservative. Malaysia did not take IMF loan. Tun Mahathir, our Prime Minister, the dollar, one US dollar, our money was devalued until like five US dollars. Okay, $6 US. Sorry, 6 ringgit to $1 US. So Tun Mahathir pegged it at 3.8. So he said, and put in monetary controls. No one can leave the country more than 10,000 Malaysian ringgit. You have to declare. Everyone coming into the country, you have to declare the cash that you bring in. So they were very tight, no monetary control. So no IMF loan, and we survived actually. Malaysia, came out of the crisis. Not to say unscathed, but a lot of still problems. Okay. So you see here, IMF developed developed countries pledge over 100 billion loans to help restore these countries, and this is what happened to South Korea and the other countries. And not the latest, but the other one is actually the subprime meltdown. Okay, so this is the latest financial crisis where the bursting of the US housing market, okay, housing bubble, subprime meltdown. They have to sell off their debts. Okay, right. We are going to talk about BOP. Right, all these crises, it's not surprising to analysts actually. course, monitoring analysts have been monitoring countries, especially those affected countries, the balance of payment accounts. Okay. So balance of payment can provide clear warning of deteriorating performance, whether there is an increased riskiness or overextended external debts, and try to protect from bad investment and risky loans to the countries that is in facing difficulties, provide valuable economic intelligence information about the countries. So anything that, especially today, all is in digitized form, can actually evaluate countries' performance, economic performance, right? So we're going to explore this next, the balance of payment, right? So, or the balance of payment accounting system. It is a double entry bookkeeping system. It measures and records transactions between residents of one country. Remember, resident the other day we mentioned can be individual, can be companies, can be corporations, can be non-governmental organizations, and residents of all other countries. Why is it important to know these statistics? Because it will help identify emerging markets for goods and services. You can actually know potential markets actually export or import. You mentioned just now already, can warn of possible new policies that can change countries' business climate, okay, which will affect profitability of a company operating in that firm. For example, the increase in countries' imports, overheating economy, or even indicate reduction in the foreign exchange reserve. It can signal increased riskiness of lending to particular countries. So this will actually, basically to see countries' performance, okay, in terms of their trades, whether there are surplus or whether there are deficits. So the BOP, or balance of payment accounting system, the major components of the system is actually, there's 4 major components: the current account, the capital account, the so-called official reserve, and the errors and omissions. Okay, so the current account and the financial account, okay, current account and the financial account record purchases of goods, services, and assets by the private and public sectors. Okay, so that's the current account. You can we'll see more detail of the goods, services, dividends, gifts. Okay, the official reserves, okay, are because reflect the impact of central bank intervention in the foreign exchange market. I forgot to mention capital market. Okay, capital market is actually the assets, okay, that is actually being bought over or sell off, okay, transferred between one country to another country. So errors and omissions account. So there is the errors and omission account, which actually captures mistakes made in recording of the BOP transactions. So the current account will actually record this export and imports of goods and services, the export and imports of services, investment income, gifts, or any unilateral transfers between countries. Okay. Now, so debit in the BOP entries. Debit is actually you pay for that. Okay, the country pay for that. Credit is actually what you earn. Okay, this is the income to the country. This is what you payment. Okay, this is payment. This is income. So goods when you buy is considered as you pay for that. Okay, selling of goods is considered as income credit. Okay, so these are the BOP entries. It's an accounting system. It's an accounting system which actually records. But how true it reflect or not? So that's why there is errors and omission. So the capital account will actually record your foreign direct investment, your foreign portfolio investment, your short-term foreign portfolio investments, long-term. So short-term is 1 year or less. Your checking account balances, time deposit, commercial bank loans, or these are short-term. Long-term are government notes and bonds, corporate stocks, bonds. Okay. It's long-term. It's actually investment, more than 1 year. FDI maturity is indeterminate because it depends on how long you're going to actually operate, or how long the country investing in your country going to actually invest. So but you want to actually have active control of the organization. So foreign subsidiaries, foreign factories, international joint ventures all fall into this category of FDI. So this is capital account, okay? Capital account, and the second component of the balance of payment. Okay, right. Capital account. So the BOP entries for capital account, for example, here outflow, okay, payment for receiving a payment from a foreigner, making a payment to a foreigner. So this are you can see actually you can determine whether it is a debit, whether it is a credit in terms of short term, long term. Buying a foreign asset for purpose of control is considered to be outflow, okay, debit. Selling a domestic asset to a foreigner for purpose of control is considered as credit. Okay, so this is the capital account. Okay, the next component is the official reserves account. We'll look at one example given in the book, which is actually USA's BOP. So record the level of official reserve held by a national government. Official reserve comprises of 4 types of assets: gold, convertible currencies, the SDR just now mentioned, special drawing rights held by the country, okay, and your reserve positions at the IMF. So somehow or other, these are being converted into some monetary values. And finally, error of omissions. So why we have this error of omissions is because the BOP must balance. So basically error. So we know the official recorded current account, capital account, and official reserves. So we need to plus of errors and omission, and it must be balanced. Balance, we say 0 basically. So all these values must actually total 0. Right. So what are the things which are in the errors and omissions? Circumstances accounting for errors and omission: under reporting of capital account transactions, deliberate action by individuals, not reporting the money laundering, evasion of currency or investment control, or errors in the current account. Okay. We can read the book to actually see some examples of this. People actually politically stable countries are destination of flight capitals. Okay, flight capitals actually money sent abroad by foreign residents. Bahamas, the Cayman Islands. Okay, to actually safe haven for the assets. Bribes, corruption money are all being sent abroad by politicians. So these are unaccounted for, okay? Or even drug money, drug money. So drug money is inside here, okay? Drug money is inside here, right? Can you see this BOP system? Oh, where is? Can you? I cannot view you. Can you see the US accounting? Can you see this? Right.
No. Maybe you haven't shared your screen.
Okay, hang on. Because I lost your video. I cannot see where you are now. Okay, are you following? Right.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So the merchandise, for example, this is an example of US balance of payment accounting records for 2017 in billions of dollars. So the current account in terms of goods, exports, imports, these are the values, and there is a balance of merchandise trade. So there's two types of trades. One is the merchandise, and one is the service, visible trades or invisible trades. Okay. So you have this total 1.5 trillion, 2.3 trillion. So you have a negative. Okay, so in terms of goods, there is the term sometimes which is known as trade deficit. Trade deficit. There is a service surplus. Okay, so balance of services is plus 242.8 billion. And the investment income for the current account, okay, there is another one, investment account and unilateral transfers. So the current account, the net is a negative 462.2 billion, okay, current account. And in terms of capital account, there is, so the current account deficit is 466.2 billion. We need the negative because when you do the balance of the using the formula, okay, we need to actually have that negative. Capital account gives us 372 billion plus net. What else? Official reserve 1.7. Okay, so these are all recorded. So errors and omissions are actually you need to actually calculate that basically. So I've done. I mean, the book doesn't give the how they derived it. I think this is how they derive it. Because using the formula current account plus capital account plus official accounts, reserve account plus errors must equals to 0. Should be equal to 0. Then you get this plus negative 466 plus 372 plus 1.7 plus error omission, and it's 92.2. Okay, so this is the account for US, and you can actually do some analysis from here. Okay, the detail is actually this is for US. For US, leading US merchandise. So this is the tangible goods. Okay, the leading US merchandise exports and imports. So basically, most of the leading exports. Okay, the green one is actually exports, automobiles and agriculture. So they export a lot of 157.6 billion of automobiles, and apparently they also import a lot of automobiles as well. Okay, well, it's more 59.9 is higher, right, than billion. So there is a deficit. Okay, they import more automobiles than they actually export. Okay, right. So you can look at this. These are the details of that, and this is between countries, between major trading partners. That's why you can see that China, from China, they import 506.5 billion. Okay, it must be billion. So imports is greater than exports. This is with US with China, US with Canada, balance with Canada, right? So this is what we call as deficit, trade deficit. There is no surplus, almost no surplus. That's the deficit. Anyway, so there's goods imports, good exports. So this merchandise goods, this service. So this between major trading partners. So in a BOP accounting system, we can you can determine trade surplus, not BOP, not balance of payment surplus. It's just the trade surplus or the trade deficit. If you want to have BOP surplus or deficit, you need to actually be careful. So what do you mean by surplus? I've already told you just now, right? Exports more goods and services than it imports. So if it exports more goods and services than it imports, then it is actually trade surplus, and vice versa. If you import more goods and services, import more goods and services than it exports, that is trade deficit. Okay. There is another concept which actually other balances also exist, such as balances on services, the balance on merchandise trade, the current account balance, and also official settlements balance. So the official settlement balance reflects the country's official reserves. Okay, how much he can. It records the net impact of the central bank interventions in the foreign exchange market in support of the local currency. It records the net impact of the central bank intervention in the foreign exchange market, all foreign currencies. Like in if yen, then US dollars, what they call euro, yuan, and so on. So, so the tricky question is which of these BOP balances is the BOP? Okay, which of these three, all the balances? Actually, the book says there is no single measure of a country's global economic performance. Okay, it is actually as the proverb, a parable of the blind man. You do not know. It depends on what you're looking for. Okay, parable of the blind man touching the elephant. Okay, so you don't know. So each balance of payment presents a different perspective on the country's or the nation's position in the international economy. But if you know the balance of payment, you'll be able to actually look at how it is performance. And this BOP concept will use depends on the issue confronting the business person or the government policymaker. So if you are the investor, then probably you need to actually understand the country's balance of payments, and looking at, if you are interested in merchandisers, and probably trade is balance of trade, surplus or deficit is much more interest or important to you. Okay, so for example, the balance of merchandise trade reflects the competitiveness of the manufacturing sector. Correct? Do you agree? The trade surplus or deficit, the trade balance of of the merchandise is actually how competitive the country's manufacturing sector is, because it's merchandise. Merchandise are all produced, manufacturing, car manufacturing, goods, electronic goods manufacturing. Okay, and the balance on service reflects the country's, the service sector competitiveness. Okay, so you're investor in service, so you know it's probably better or for you to analyze the the balance of payment for the services rather than merchandise, because it's not going to affect your decisions. Okay. I think in the newspapers or in the in reports, normally they will always report a balance of trade, merchandise trade. Most of the reports are actually balanced on merchandise trade. Of course, that's why be careful when you listen to reports, or you listen to news. You probably want to know whether they are referring to the balance on merchandise trade or balance on services. Okay. What do you call that will actually relevant, important to us. And the balance on goods and services combined together reflects the combined international competitiveness of the country's manufacturing and service sectors. Okay, so if you want to look at a good picture of how the manufacturing and service is performing, then you will look into that, right? So I do not know where agriculture come in because it doesn't mention where agriculture comes in, or even other industries. Probably it falls under manufacturing as well. Right. Okay. Right. So that's about all that I would like to share with you. I would there is an end of chapter. If you can do this small exercise, because it's just asking you whether the transactions recorded is what kind of transaction you're going to put on these 4 items. Okay, so if you can, it's on page of your book which I gave to you. Okay, if you still remember the book that I gave to you, 233, page 233. If you can do this and just submit me through email, just give the answer for this 717. You don't have to just what's this, that's all. Okay, 717, 718, 719, 720. Building global skills. So this exercise explains how US government statistician account for international transactions. You may want to refer to table 7.3 and 7.5 and to the definition of capital inflows and capital outflows on page 226 when you actually try to answer the questions. Okay. All right. Questions? Any questions? So if you can submit by, is Sarah around? No, Sarah is not around. Okay, she has problems with she went, I don't know, passport office.
Oh yes, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm here.
Oh yeah, okay, Sarah. Okay, right. So right. So if you can submit that by next week, that would be good. Okay. Except Liu are just you're just attending and listening. It's okay. But the other 3 are here for some grades to be filled up at the end of the semester. Okay. Right. Any questions? Anything?
We need to answer the 4 questions, right?
Yes. You need to answer the 4 questions. Do the following exercise on your own. How will the following transaction be recorded in the US BOP accounts? These 4 items.
All right.
Think about it. Okay, so I think I'll end today's session. I will see you next week. Okay, and we are left with a few more topics and a few more lessons before the end of the semester. Time flies. Really, time flies. You don't worry about that. Time flies. Okay. Okay, right. So I'll see you next week. Okay, so take care, everyone. Yeah, anything,
Thank-
Alvin? Okay.
Yeah, just thank you
Okay.
for today.
Wait, teacher.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You,
Right. Bye-bye.
Very
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Liu. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, teacher. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Right.